everyone, welcome to the Money Club series. I am Zar, your host, and I'm joined by celebrity accountant, Sam ELJERBAN. How are you? Where have you been?
I was going to ask you the same question. Where have you been, mate? Long time, mate. Long time. How many months?
You're like a bear that goes into hibernation for 6 months and then you come out and start eating like crazy.
No, you know when I reappear?
When's that?
Tax time, mate.
Oh, now it's tax time, right? That's why you're here.
Mate, everyone's chasing me now. Everyone's like 30 June's coming. They're shitting their pants what to do with their money. And they're hammering me, so I have to come out and play.
Well, for our listeners, I'm sorry it's taken a while for us to do our first 2022 podcast, but we've been extremely busy dealing with the once-in-a-lifetime property boom. I had a baby. Yeah, Sam got engaged.
Yes.
So much has happened in the last 6 months. We've been very, very busy.
Indeed.
But it's exciting to be back, right? And I really miss doing this.
Yeah.
Educating our listeners and our viewers on how to manage their money, magnify their money. What else?
Just sharing our experience. That's it. I think we're a bit older or maybe more experienced than some people in these spaces, and just really going through what we learned over time, what we're doing, and how people can do the same thing.
Well, we forget how valuable this podcast is, Sam, because over the last 6 months, obviously, we took a bit of a break. But we did get the feedback from our viewers who are like keen listeners, and they sort of a lot of them are our clients as well. They really enjoy the content, and it's really helpful for those who, even though a lot of people don't even do business with us, but they take this information away, they use it, and they make a better life for themselves, right? And I think today what we want to talk about is going back to the basics, because what people forget is the fundamentals, right, of how to manage their money. They focus so much on what to invest in and where to put their money and all of that sort of thing. But really, in times like this, there's a lot of fear and uncertainty in the market right now. In all markets, crypto's going down, commodities aren't moving, stocks are going down, property's a bit, how you going? So people forget the fundamentals, because if you focus on the fundamentals, you'll ultimately become recession-proof.
Exactly. I think there's a lot of stress out there. There's a lot going on, and really you just have to dial it back. Dial it back. Don't get caught up in that stress. Educate yourself, which we'll talk about further, and I guess come to a path you're happy to proceed on and go down that path.
I love it. I love it.
Simple. So keep it simple.
Keep it simple. It's back to the fundamentals, right?
Don't have to overcomplicate stuff. I always deal with clients trying to make things too complicated. I'm like, why are you doing that? Keep your life simple, and you'll be happier, and you'll get more things done.
Well, what I like about the fundamentals, Sam, is that it's everything that's in our control. So when it comes to making money, saving money, growing your wealth, if you bring it back to the foundations, basically, it really is stuff that you can control within your inner self. And that's why this podcast, this episode is called Mindset Before Money. And a lot of people focus on the money. Like, for example, you'll get people come in going, I've got $10,000, what should I invest in? And they've got nothing to their name so far. Really, you should be investing in yourself, right? In personal development, and in improving your mindset. And the only way you're really going to do that is by doing certain things, and I guess taking on certain habits and making sure that they last a lifetime. So we're going to go through them today, I guess, like certain traits and habits that you need before you even think about money, which are in your control, which will enable you to be recession-proof for a lifetime.
Indeed. Let's get into it.
What's the first one?
First one is, okay, so really we're going to talk about the traits and habits accrued within yourself to develop a marvelous mindset, right? To weather any storm. First one, work ethic. Okay, I think your work ethic is something you develop over time. It's not something you're born with. It can be honed, it can be influenced, it can be improved upon. Okay, I think the work ethic originally would come from who you're dealing with within your family. So your foundational work ethic is really going to be influenced by your parents, right? And in the family model, maybe a school model when you're at school. And hopefully, if you're in a good space, that work ethic will be good, that's being influenced upon you. So there's a foundational type work ethic that you'll be subjected to, but over time you'll develop your own. And I guess that's where probably the most important transition will come is like, for example, in school, you're forced to learn. You can jig school, you can, wag and not learn, but you have to turn up more or less and learn.
Did you used to wag?
I was actually quite a good student.
You're pretty good, pretty well behaved.
I was lucky because I actually liked some of the shit I was learning.
Yeah.
Like I did a lot, it might be boring to some people, but it's what I do now is business and economics. I liked learning about it. I wanted to know how the world worked.
Yeah.
And those topics, taught me how to do it. Or it taught me how the world works. So I actually enjoyed what I was doing. But I know a lot of people would go down different paths in life, and what is available at school doesn't really contribute to that path. So they'll go, fuck, I'm going to go smoke weed in the bush.
Yeah, that was me.
That's what happened at Henry Kendall High School.
That was me. And then I would go back to class after smoking weed. Wow. And then all of a sudden, class was very interesting.
It was very fun.
Yeah.
You laughed at everything, man.
So that just goes to show that first trait of having a good work ethic did not work for me in high school. Hence the reason why I got really, really shit results, right? But when I entered the working, I guess,
it was
force,
on you.
Yeah,
it was on you to develop.
It's your responsibility, right? And going back to the parents, we come from migrant, parents where. Generally speaking, as I grew up, migrant families, they had hard-working parents, right? Especially like Asians and, Arabs, you know what I mean? Or everyone that I used to grow up with who were from migrant parents, their parents would work extra, extra hard, which would then transition down to the kids, right?
You saw it every day. They're coming home working hard.
And my dad was exactly the same. And, it was all about work. And I think it's one thing that you can control. And, we've hired a lot of, I guess the younger generation cop a lot of flack at the moment because, social media sort of takes over their lives. But the thing is, they are a very entitled bunch. I hate to say it, and I'm talking about the Gen Zs, right? The really young ones. So I think the opportunity lies in, if you can have a really strong work ethic, you're probably going to stand out from the crowd a lot more than, say, what our generation was. So for our younger listeners out there, that's the one thing you can control. And if you have a really strong work ethic, you'll weather any storm.
I'm seeing it a lot with people now dealing with staff and things like that, younger people looking to get ahead. Everyone's trying to skip the hard work sort of thing.
But we're about to fire someone tomorrow, Sam, right? I hope they're listening now.
Is it relating to something like this?
Yeah, they rock up late, right? They leave early, or they ask to leave early all the time. They do fuck all. They sit in the corner and do nothing, right? But then they expect to get paid. And they want more money, right? And it's, it doesn't help that the government's printing all of this cash and there's a lot of money flowing in the economy, and we don't have immigration here to create competition for jobs. You talk to people who own restaurants, hair salons, it's very, very hard to get staff at the moment. And then when you do get staff, people want to be overpaid and they don't want to do nothing, right? Like it's killing the economy. And but what ultimately who it hurts are the people who are working.
Yeah, exactly. It affects you who's not developing the work ethic. So I'm seeing a lot of people come into, say, the labour market, even the business space, and they really just want to succeed overnight. So whether they have the work ethic or not, but it's to me it sounds like the work ethic isn't there.
Yeah.
And they're wanting to skip those hard years where they're not going to make money.
Yeah.
Because they just don't have that in them to proceed. You see it all the time. People jumping from job to job, people pursuing something, not seeing the results in 2 years, and then throwing it away. So I think it is a big issue, and it's going to really be we're going to see a lot of the effects of it moving forward, because the younger generation is just becoming more prevalent.
Yes, and this leads us into the second point, right? The second point is sacrifice / delayed gratification, right? Because going back to the first point, I think people are so focused on that instant gratification, and that when they don't get it, they start moving on to something else, and ultimately they don't become good at anything because they don't stick it out for long enough, because they think, I've got to follow my passion, I've got to follow my purpose and all of that bullshit, right? Which is not bullshit, because eventually that's where you want to end up. but there is a period of sacrifice where you got to do shit that you don't want to do, right? You've got to delay that gratification. Don't go to Louis Vuitton and buy that handbag, right? Don't go and buy the fancy car. Don't move into the big home yet, right? Educate yourself, invest in yourself, and then you can enjoy later on. But I think people underestimate the time that it takes to get good at something.
They're chasing a lotto ticket, is the way I see it. They're looking for the next big thing that's going to crack it for them. You see it in property investment, people trying to do a big flip to finish and not have to do it anymore, instead of investing slowly and grinding it out. So the way I saw it, it affected me growing up, like the work ethic and sacrifice in my personal example. To get into the accounting space, into an accounting firm as a graduate, it's very hard. There was a lot of competition for spaces.
Well, it pays fuck all, right?
Pretty much.
When you spend 3 or 4 years at uni, right? You get your degree. You spent $100 grand getting on a student loan or whatever it is. Then you go out, you look for a job as a graduate, right? What would you earn?
Well, this is the thing. It was that hard to get into. There was so much competition.
So there's an oversupply of you guys, right?
Oversupply. Yeah. It tied in with some international factors. But what happened was, I saw that and I took a role lower than what I probably should have, just to get my foot in the market. So I sacrificed earlier on just to get my foot in the door to a firm. I probably earned half of what I should have for about 2 to 3 years.
Just to get your foot in the door?
Because I saw, I'm like, well, fuck, I can't get in. Like, there's a lot of, no matter who you are, there's always someone smarter. There's always someone with a better resume. They'd always like pip me at the post, right? So I'm like, okay, well, I'll go in lower and I'll get in the firm and I'll grow within the firm. So I took a hit initially, probably not really on pride. I wasn't concerned about that, but monetarily, yes. But I was like, it's the only way in. So I sacrificed back then. I had a good work ethic, sacrificed early, got in, and slowly developed over time.
And you did that over 2 or 3 years, right? So you were on, I guess, let's call it below market income for 2 or 3 years, which a lot of people can't even do that for 2 or 3 days, right?
Exactly, yeah.
A lot of people are expecting to get that high-paying job straight away, and what they don't realise is people like you and me. I went through something similar back in the day when I was working in hospitality. All I was doing was washing dishes. And the only way I could get promoted to floor staff or bar staff was I had to offer to work for free. So I remember the restaurant that I worked for, they had a bar connected to it next door. And I really wanted to work in the bar. So I offered to work for free, and obviously they took that offer on because it's free labor for them, which I think is illegal. But anyway, I didn't care because I wanted my foot in the door, and then I ended up getting that job in the bar, right? So I got promoted, I got more money and all of that sort of thing. But I had to do 2 weeks worth of free work, night shift, right? To earn my keep. And a lot of people don't even want to do 1 free day to really get their foot in the door. They expect it, at the very beginning. And I know millennials, which we're millennials, and Gen Zs, they get bashed all the time for this sort of stuff where we generalize that they're lazy and all of that sort of thing, but it's the fucking truth, right? Like, we are all getting lazy really, because we are so used to getting things instantly. But if you go back to the old school way, you've got to sacrifice. There's a period of that delayed gratification where you've got to go through, and then you can enjoy later.
I think we were blessed to have grown up when we did, just before all the tech happened, and made life a bit easier because we actually developed these things. Where it's harder for guys now, guys and girls, because they just have the tech there. Everything is a bit easier for them.
They're too reliant on the tech.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So
you go to McDonald's now, there's no one there at the counter except delivering your food. You can't talk to no one, right? Technology has fucked that business because now customer service is not a big thing for them. It's just robots, right? So you don't go for a great experience anymore. You just get your food and you get out, right? And this is what's happening to a lot of businesses around the world, where they're so reliant on tech that people are losing focus on what they're supposed to do. Right? And now we don't know how to talk to each other.
No skills, no communication.
Exactly. So I guess the positive is, if you learn these skills, learn how to delay gratification, learn how to be less reliant on technology, you will stand out as a commodity in the marketplace.
100%. Agreed.
Number 3, education.
Very important one for the mindsets.
What type of education though? We're talking tertiary education, high school education?
I think a big mix of everything, really. Academics, I've seen really not very practically successful in life. So academic gets you to a certain point. So your whole schooling education, blah, blah, blah. Like you said, you didn't turn up to school at some topics, but look at you now. So the academics sort
That's it, kids. Turn up to
Don't go
school
to school.
stoned and you'll become like me.
So don't go to school, you become successful.
Yeah.
But it's going into that space. So I think previously you sort of had to go through that route through school, get the good grades, go to the good unis, all that kind of stuff. Life's changing now, the world's changing, you don't have to go that route. There's a lot more emphasis, I feel now, on practical experience. So for example, if I hire someone in an accounting firm, I don't really necessarily care about their degrees. Because a degree, I went through the process, it's just a ticking of a box, you can get the degree, that's fine. But if they don't know how to do the job, or they don't have the experience I need, I could get someone without the degree, train them up if they've got the aptitude, and that's what I need. So I think we're steering away from academic type education, more practical and life sort of education. So I'd rather someone with a lot more life experience that can communicate, that instead of someone that can regurgitate.
Yes.
Sort of thing,
yes.
if you know what I mean.
Yes.
So that's what I'm seeing in education.
So experience is probably the best education.
I believe.
And I think right now, self-education can be taught at lightning speed compared to, say, 20 years ago when we used to have to do 4 to 5 year degrees, right? Unless you're going to be obviously a doctor or something like that. But now, like with the things like YouTube and podcasts like this, you can learn so much from so many smart people around the world. You can get educated very, very quickly if you commit to it. And I think being educated will be the commodity that you'll want to have moving on to the future, because if you're not educated and you're running into a recession, good luck.
Exactly. You can listen to podcasts, read books. That's a good way to educate yourself. Or you can do. So, for example, I learn a lot of what I need to do for clients by doing it myself. So if a client comes to me about investment properties, I've done it. So I can tell them, this is what you do, this is what you look out for. If someone comes to me saying super fund, I've done it myself. So I can tell them about it. And it'd be the same in the space of property investment, selecting assets like you. You've done it. You've bought different types of assets. You've actually done the work. You've practically done it. You didn't read about it. You have, but then you actioned it. And now you've got that experience to pass on. That education you sought, you can now pass on to people.
Well, it's like the bloke who's single, he's been divorced twice and he's giving you relationship advice. Do you listen to him? Do you know what I mean? Like you don't.
Some people
right?
do though. That's the problem.
But you don't, right? You shouldn't, because at the end of the day, that guy he has practically failed. In that side of things. And it's the same as, I guess, our business. You want to know that the people you're talking to actually do what they're trying to preach. And I think that's the biggest thing at the moment, because there's a lot of, I guess, fake gurus out in the marketplace claiming to be all types of experts, right? But they're just sort of, it's just a facade, and they're just, it's sort of just a marketing machine.
I seen this one, made me giggle. I think he was about 22, not hassling young people, but he was about 22 and he was a life coach. I was like, mate, you're 22, you haven't done anything.
Yeah.
So it's
There's a lot of them out there, aren't there? There's an oversupply of life coaches.
I think they get caught up in that whole do what you want, you know, and philanthropic thing. But, you know, someone that's 35 years old has a lot more experience and just life, you know, chaos in life and all that stuff he's been through compared to someone that's 22. Depending, you know, he might have gone through a lot, but, you know.
To me, philanthropy comes later on in life when you've done a whole heap of shit. You've made mistakes, you've had successes, you've failed at certain things, because then you've got a story to tell and you've got something to pass down. These guys that, you know, haven't even been through failures. They might have just succeeded, you know, and they're still in their early 20s and all they've seen is success, success, success. They're not people you want to listen to because they haven't fallen over and hurt themselves, right? You want to listen to people who have really hurt themselves so they can really value the success. Okay, what is number 4?
Number 4, environment. Very good point. I believe this one is for your mindset. So I guess the environment really is your surrounds.
To people?
People. There's a few different things I want to talk about with the environment. One thing I found lately, I'll start with a negative so we finish on a positive. Within my, say, life, I found that this saying rings true. Misery loves company. Okay, so dealing with negative people, they want to make your life negative. That's what I found. If they're not happy, they want to bring you into their nightmare, and they don't, they want you to be negative as well. So I've found that there are these people in your environment.
And we've all got them. We've all got them, right?
Yeah.
And I'd say this to people. A lot of people say to me, I've got this friend who's negative, and like I hate being around him because all he does is bring me down.
Drains me.
Yeah. And I think to myself, well, he's not really a friend then. Because if he's negative, then you should be eliminating that person. It's more so a negative person in your life, right? Because you sort of want to get rid of all of your negative friends.
Yep.
I mean, we've all got the family member who's super negative, and they're always sick. There's always a problem, and they want to judge and criticize what you do. I just don't spend time with those people. I don't give a fuck who they are, right? Yeah. So you want to eliminate those people to help you grow, and these are things you can control, right? A lot of people say, "Oh, but I can't control it because he's been my mate for 20 years." Get rid of him. Who gives a fuck?
That's a very good point. Focus on what you can control.
Yeah.
So you can control who is in your life. You can control your clients to an extent, unless they're big paying clients or whatever. You need them to get by, but you can pick and choose these people. So I would say pick wisely. Everyone you deal with is not really looking out for your interests. So just find some people that support you. Have that sort of network of positivity. Don't.
Well, it's an investment, right? And a lot of people say, "Oh, it's really hard to find positive people." And I actually found that when I was first starting out in business, it was really hard to get a supportive group of people around. It just seemed like everybody just wanted to take from you.
Selfish, huh?
Yeah,
selfish.
very, very selfish. And I think we live in a country where it is a pretty selfish country because we've had such a good life here, and everyone is spoilt here. So everyone's just trying to take for themselves. But eventually, if you become that positive person, you will attract those right people. And, you might start off on your own first. That's better. That's a better environment to be in than actually having 2 or 3 negative friends around you. You're much better off just being by yourself.
100%. I went to a management course a long time ago. I probably talked about this before, but in business they teach this in when you're managing people and a team particularly. Be wary of, they call it the spiky balloon. Do you remember that I talked about the spiky balloon? So they refer to, it could be you or your family or your business, whatever. Whenever there's a group of people, generally you're in a positive state of mind or you're looking to grow. It's on a positive upward trajectory, right? And they say in management to watch out for the spiky balloon is that one person within the balloon group that has spikes that's popping you guys and bringing you down.
So everyone's a balloon, you're a balloon, and then you're looking out for the spike that's going to pop, burst your bubble.
Trying to identify who's in my life, whatever relationship, business, family, whatever, who has the potential or is angling like that. Because you don't want to, it's going to reduce your energy. Like, life's hard enough. You don't want people in your life bringing you down further.
And we all have a spiky balloon in our lives, right? There's someone out there who wants
giving us the shits all the time.
Yeah, and they want to burst your bubble,
bring you down,
right?
100%.
So I guess one exercise we can take away from this podcast is identify who that spike is and get rid of it.
Get rid of them. You'll be better for it.
Halfway, action Jackson.
Action Jackson. Okay.
This comes down to execution, right?
Yeah, I think, me personally, I had previous issues with taking action, so I've got some good experience with this. It really is all about...
You were great at inaction for a little while.
I sat on the sidelines for a long time.
But I think everyone falls into this trap, Sam.
It's easy.
And even I have, right? Like I'm obsessed with taking action now, even if I think it's not going to work. I just do it because at the end of the day, we've got one life, and I don't really care if I fail, because if I fail, I'll learn, and if I win, great, right? It's a bonus. I think people lack execution because what's happening now is they've got access to so much information, they listen to too many people, they get confused, and then they're paralyzed in action, right? And what happens is they don't do anything. And it's so much easier to not do anything because no one's going to judge you, no one's going to criticize you, and you're not going to fail because you haven't done anything. But the issue is there's bigger risk not taking action than taking action, because if you take action, at least you'll learn out of it and you'll move forward. You'll always move forward.
You'll either, I saw a saying before: if you take action, you'll either win and succeed, or lose and have the experience to teach others.
And you want the experience. We just talked about the best education is experience,
doing it
right?
yourself, yeah.
And this is what we're talking about. These life coach gurus who are 21 years old, right? They haven't had enough mistakes from taking continuous action, right? They just haven't had that time to be able to do it. So what you want is you want to be able to live a life, get to your mid-30s, get to your mid-40s, get to your mid-50s and go, hey, I've done X, Y, and Z. I've failed at maybe half of them, but I've succeeded at the other half. And it's funny, right? The more you have failed in this world, really, the more you have failed and gotten back up again, the better your story is when you go to the marketplace. So people will listen to you more because you become more interesting. Notice that the people who have the greatest stories in the world are the people who have lost both of their legs in an accident, or
then went to the Olympics, became
like the comeback story is always going to sell more than the person who's just had success. I was in business with someone once where all he had was success all the way up till late 30s, right? And then all of a sudden his business ventures failed and he fell so far flat on his face, he was like depressed because he had never failed before. And he's I guess you can become quite arrogant, right, when you haven't failed. So getting back to action, it's actually important to fail. And you want to fail early, you want to fail fast, you want to fail forward, right? Because it's really important because it's all about your story. And we're not saying be reckless and make stupid decisions. Obviously try and calculate decisions for the win, but take action.
Yeah.
Just do something.
That's it. The two main things I see holding action, which I personally found, was analysis paralysis, like you said, looking at too much stuff, reading too many things. You miss out on a lot of opportunity if you do that. You got to, I guess, siphon out all of that stuff, get a direction, follow it, readjust, but follow it. The other one is the fear of failure. I think that's a big one. That kept me away from certain things for a long time. But really, you touched on, it's the things you don't do that you're going to regret. Right? Not the things you do. The things you didn't do, you're going to regret. So you might as well just go and do them. Whatever's in your mind, whether that's...
Because if you do it, you've done it.
It's done it. You can't regret it. You've done it. So
it.
the things you don't do are the things you're going to regret. So try limit the things you don't do.
You know what's funny, Sam? I look back on my failures, especially now because it's been so long ago, like my big failures, and I think, wow, I'm so glad I went through them. Because I literally would not be here today if I didn't go through that. I was just thinking about the business I had before Luxland, right? You know, I was getting screwed over by a business partner. I was in an industry that I did not really enjoy. And I was so heartbroken when my business partner was screwing me over. And then I just thought to myself, at the time, I was thinking, if he didn't screw me over, I would be so much better within this specific industry. But what happened was, because of that event and that situation, it forced me to go and look at another industry, expand Luxland, get into what I'm doing now. And I'd much rather be successful in this space than the former space, right? And I actually have that failure of that business venture to thank to be in this position. Because if I was successful in that other venture, I wouldn't be here, because it wouldn't have forced me to be so good at what I'm doing now.
So the failure was a blessing.
Every failure is a blessing in disguise.
It puts you on another path.
Right? And if you think about it, like you talk to a lot of old timers who have done quite well, and you ask them about their failures, every single one of them will say it happened for a reason.
That's right. Yeah, no, you're right. They look back in hindsight. Number 6.
We touched on this, mentor. So I think what people do wrong here is they have too many mentors.
Yeah.
You're meant to really just listen to one or two people, the people that you really trust, people who you aspire to be like, and just go in that direction. Because what's going to happen? Everyone's a mentor now. Everybody's a life coach. Everybody is an expert, and you're going to get bombarded with different opinions and different things. And then again, you're going to be in action, because what's going to happen is you're going to be confused.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Do I go this way? Do I go that way? Everybody's telling me different things, and then all of a sudden you just do nothing because it's easier, right? Follow that one person or two people that you really aspire to be like, and be very, very focused.
I think as well, just on that, mentors can change over time. As you know, going through life, you reach different milestones, and you might be going down or up, so that life sort of journey. So I think your mentors can change over time. So don't just stick to one and blindly follow them.
I think
we're seeing one we watch, and we're erring off them now as a potential mentor, because
they're too old. They're obsolete, right?
They're not. We can't relate to them.
They
anymore.
get you from A to B,
Yes.
and now you got to go from B to C,
Reassess,
right?
correct.
And that B to C is an upgrade. So it's not a bad thing. You're not being disloyal to that original mentor. Thank that original mentor to get you from A to B, but now you're on a different path, right? You're trying to go from B to C, which is a higher and more modern path, right? So you might have to go to someone who's younger or someone who's more closely connected to what you're trying to achieve, right? But the key is just have one or two really, really good guys that you follow or look up to, and they don't even really you don't even really have to know them, right? We call it silent mentors, right? Because now there's so much content out there that people are producing where you can really become best mates with someone and not even have met them.
That's right.
Right? I've got this one mentor here who actually doesn't even like me. He's from Australia. He doesn't like me because I'm a bit of a threat to his business, but I love his content and I love his education, and I actually recommend his stuff to my clients.
Oh, wow.
And I have to say, look, this guy doesn't actually personally like me, but he's great,
he's a gun.
right? And I actually feel like I'm best mates with him, and I don't even talk to him, right? But the education is out there, and you know, go and get it. But focus on that sort of 1-2 people, and just put the blinders on. You know what I mean?
And just with the blinders, just remember, people aren't perfect. Take what you can from them, the positives, not everything.
You're not going to agree 100% with someone, right? It might be 90%, might be 80%, but take the good things, right? And take the good things from others, and combine it to your own story. Number 7, we've got to keep moving.
We're talking too much, mate. I thought it would be hard pressed for talking, mate. Abundance over scarcity. This really boils down to your actual mind, your state of mind. Again, I've been in the scarcity mode. I've been in the abundant mode.
Well, our parents, you know, and this is going back to, I guess, one bad thing about migrant parents, right? Well, I'm generally speaking here because I know our parents are very similar, but migrant parents tend to be have the scarcity mindset, right? Where, you know, money doesn't grow on trees. There's only a certain amount to go around. You know, usually they're on fixed incomes. There's only so much for us to feed off, and I think the majority of the population actually they think like this. They think of price rather than value.
Yep.
They think of how much do I have? Okay, what can I go now and do?
Yep.
Whereas I think a little bit differently, right? I think in more so abundance. I go, okay, what is it that I want to do? So what are the things that are driving me to achieve in life? Like this is the back end result. Now, what do I have to do to get that back end result?
You reverse engineer it.
Reverse engineer it, right? So you go, this is the life that I've always wanted. Okay, this is, you know, from everything, you know, from the restaurants that I want to go and eat at, from the holidays that I want to have, from the people that I want to help, from the suburb I want to live in, like all of that sort of stuff, and go, okay, this is my dream life. Now let's go to the work and go, okay, what do I got to do it, right? And then all of a sudden you start thinking limitless. You think in abundance because there's no glass ceiling.
Yeah.
But if you think in scarcity where you go, okay, well, this is what I have, right? And this is what it's pretty much going to produce on the back end because this is all I've got. And I think it's really, really, it's really benefited my life thinking in abundance.
I think where you've done well, you went straight into entrepreneurship early. The way I see it, scarcity mind, which I had at some stage, and a lot of people would have, comes from probably your initial stages of working and getting your paycheck. You mentioned a lot about your paycheck being like a drug. You know, it keeps you to the job, it gives you just enough to survive, blah, blah, blah. And what it does to you, it gives you that certain amount, and you start budgeting for that certain amount. And if you don't get out of the job space where you're limited by a pay slip, you always have that sort of budget mind instead of
course,
a growing mind.
Of course, and this is why we can encourage people on fixed incomes to always have side hustles, because a side hustle is something you can scale, something that you can, it's limitless. Where, let's say you're earning $100,000 a year from your job, it's only natural to think, okay, in 1 year, I've got $100,000 a year, $25,000, $30,000 goes to tax, you know, then I've got $70,000 to live off, right? What can I now pay for that? But if you had a side hustle that had limitless capacity, then you can go, okay, well, the sky's the limit, right? I can do whatever it is that I want. And that's where I think you can transition from the scarcity mindset to the abundance mindset. And everybody should be going through that.
Another quick one just before we move on. Just know money, because we're talking about money, money in and of itself can be made out of thin air. So one thing, you might feel money is restricted, but in the actual economy, the government prints money. So there's so much money out there and it continually is printed. So that concept of the structure we live in where money is always being pumped out should help you digest that as well.
Well, yeah, there's a limitless supply of money, right?
Being made.
So what we're talking about here with these traits is if you can focus on these controllable traits, which cost nothing really, if you focus on these things that you can control, then you have more of a chance of grabbing that money, which is in high supply, right? So you can break out of that fixed mindset and realize that, hey, the sky's the limit.
Number 8, goal setting. Very important. Gives you direction. Okay, without a goal, you'll be flailing around with no purpose for your moves. So having goals, whatever they are, financial, life goals, career goals, whatever they are, they keep you on a certain path, which is good for your brain. You're progressing. It develops your mindset, and it's going to allow you to assess how well you're going, and allow yourself to reassess and maybe change direction. So I think goal setting very important. It's what we do with clients all the time in the property space. You know, what is your next investment? Always providing that ongoing goal. In accounting, it's, you know, how are we going to grow your business? How do we reduce it? There's always a goal. You always have to have some form of direction.
There's no secret in the world that the most successful people, you know, they all have goals, right? They're very, very goal driven. It's more so having that target in front of you. And it's very surprising that where we meet people and they have no goals. And it's not, it sounds bad, but it's actually true. That they're good people and they mean well and they work hard, right? And they intend on doing good things, but they actually don't have any goals. And you need to tie, especially when it comes to money goals, you need to tie something to it. Like maybe you're going to reward yourself for the next investment property you buy, or you need to have like the 10-year acquisition strategy in front of you. That's why we tell our clients, hey, it's not just the property in front of you, it's the full portfolio. It's the 10 in the 10-year period that you're going to do. So most people that come in, I go, okay, now if you don't have goals, I'm making one for you. It's a 10-year goal, right? It's a 20-year goal. It's a 30-year goal. And all of a sudden, people start thinking bigger. They start thinking long term. Whereas what happens is people just make the mistake of thinking about the thing in front of them. Maybe it's just the investment property that they want to buy, but they don't think about the whole portfolio. So you've really got to map out your goals, especially if you're in your, you know, late 20s, early 30s. Like, you got to get a move on with that shit, right? Because if you don't have goals, it's like jumping into a car, having nothing in the GPS, not knowing your destination, and just driving around aimlessly.
How many times do clients come to us wanting to talk about property, and all they have in their mind is, I want to be financially free? So they've got like the end goal, but they don't have sort of the stepping stones in between. They know where they want to be, but they haven't got a plan or those...
There's no strategy.
Goals and strategies along the way to get you there. You can say, I want to go to Europe, but how are you going to get there? You got to get a plane from here to here to here to here to here. So it's sort of breaking that big end goal, which everyone has. Everyone that on earth wants to have financial freedom. That's what everyone's talking about. Everyone wants that. But it's like, okay, you want that, but how do you do it? So you need these things to get there.
Yeah, and it's important to sort of know how to get there. Like, it's all well and good to go, hey, I want freedom. Hey, I want the big house. Hey, I want, to never work again. But how are you going to do it?
Yeah.
How, right? And that's our job to help you do that.
Indeed. Number 9, investment. Okay, investment's quite broad. I boiled it down to about 3 main things in life regarding investment and mindset. Yourself, your business or career, and your future. Okay, so investing in yourself is like
Listening to this podcast.
listening to this podcast, so you're getting educated, you're developing your mind. Investing in yourself could be going to the gym, spending time creating a healthy body that's going to give you confidence, which is going to help your brain. What else could there be? We like to go to the barber quite frequently just to keep
Grooming.
Grooming. It makes us feel good. Spending time and investing in your relationships, your close relationships. All of these things relating to you are going to help, or investing in them relating to you is going to help your brain.
Yeah, so I guess it comes down to also your personal brand as well, because your personal brand is what's going to get you more business.
Yep.
Your personal brand is going to determine whether people want to do business with you, people want to be involved in your network. So I think investing in yourself is the first thing you should do, and that's what we tell people who have the $10,000 and nothing else to their name. We say, well, invest it in your name, right?
Yeah.
Don't invest it into any stock or crypto. Like, invest it in better clothes, invest it in a haircut, right?
Haircut, yeah.
Invest in a gym membership, like all of those things. Invest in your network so you can be around better people. And then, once you've got that covered, invest in your business or your career, and then that will produce more cash flow. You'll get surplus funds, learn how to save money, and then invest in real assets, right? Which, obviously we talk about property. But there are so many steps beforehand with investment, and I think people fail because they maybe skip one step. They forget about themselves because they think, oh, it's too selfish, right? So investment in all of those 3 areas are very important.
And we're talking about mindset before money now. It's because developing yourself before you get into business and before you get into investments is what you need to do. Otherwise, you might fail, right?
Yep.
Number 10, gratitude.
This is the last one, and a lot of people overlook it, and this is why we put it down for
We
number
forget
10.
about it a lot,
Yeah.
actually. We're too caught up in work, in life, that you forget to do this.
Including myself. And it's very easy to, like you said, get caught up with your work and you're just driven by, I guess, targets, driven by trying to acquire more assets. Whatever it is that you're driven by can overtake gratitude, and I think it's really, really important for people to remain humble, down to earth. Remember that, especially if you live in Australia, you live in the lucky country where you're probably one of the wealthiest people in the world, right? Even if you're on a low income here in Australia, you are still considered one of the wealthiest people in the world.
Exactly. I reckon a good tip for people, which I just heard of recently, is if you're ever feeling down or, you can't find the gratitude, take a time, just zoom out your life and see where you started and where you are.
Yeah.
Even if you haven't progressed super high in life, you still would be a lot more ahead than where you were 10 years ago. So take a step back, zoom out, see what you've achieved, and be happy. And
sometimes, we fail at doing that because we get so caught up in the future, we don't actually look back at the past and go, okay, how far have we come? And it's amazing what you can achieve in, 6, 12 months. So many things can change. So, don't forget, give yourself a pat on the back. You're doing well in this journey called life. We're all super proud of you. And it's one of those things where I forget to do as well, Sam.
Focus on you, seeing how far you've come, not so much the future, have the goals to get there, but don't compare yourself to other people.
That's a big one.
That's a
lot of people compare themselves to others at the moment.
Compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to other people.
Yeah, look in the mirror.
That's right. The man in the mirror.
The man in the mirror. All right, I love it. All right, that's 10 mindsets before money that you guys can control before that big cash comes in, right? So I really enjoyed this, Sam. I missed this.
Yeah,
this was great.
Good.
Thanks for this. So the next one is going to be the property one, which we'll talk about updates on the market at the moment in 2022. So stay tuned for that, guys. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time. Peace.
See you guys.